Well, I'm joined now by Eran Etzion, former head of policy planning at Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and former deputy head of the National Security Council in the Prime Minister's office. Sir, thank you very much for joining us here on the programme. I just want to get your take on this actual deal, because already, we know the ceasefire is in effect. We've heard Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu say, if Hamas doesn't disarm, we hold the right to go back. I spoke to Hamas saying, we're not going to disarm yet because we don't feel secure. What's your take?
Well, there's actually no agreement. There is a proposal by Trump that was allegedly agreed to by both sides. But both sides gave essentially a huge yes but, where the but is much bigger than the yes. And what it amounts to is the probability of the first phase being successfully executed. We're all hoping and we're all rooting for it. On Monday, the release of the hostages in exchange for a large amount, almost 2,000 Palestinian prisoners, detainees, and so on. Some of them, horrible murderers. And the entrance of aid into Gaza. And then and the IDF has retreated already to a certain line, which is relatively deep into Gaza, approximately 30 to 50% of the area, but not in control of any Palestinians. They will be effectively under Hamas's control. So we're going to be in a bizarre situation which resembles to a certain extent the day before rather than the day after the war in Gaza.
What do you mean when you say the day before?
Hamas was essentially in control, and it will regain control, at least it may regain control, let's put it this way, which is not the spirit of the agreement, not the intent, certainly not of the Israelis, and also, I believe, not of the Americans, the Egyptians, the Qataris, and the Turks.
But there's no alternative? Is that what you're saying at this point in terms of a governing force?
See, we have to distinguish between what will actually happen on the ground and the language of the agreement. According to the agreement, there's supposed to be an international stabilization force, denoted as ISF, that is supposed to replace the IDF and replace Hamas and assist the new transitional authority, technocratic government, by the Palestinians, who should be nominated with involvement of the PA and the Americans and Israelis and so on.
Sounds great on paper.
Exactly. But on the ground, effectively, as of next week, Hamas might be able to resurrect unless there is very quick and effective action by all the parties involved.
Do you feel confident that there will be quick action?
I can't say I feel confident, but I do believe that certainly the Egyptians, who have a lot of skin in this game, and the Qataris and the Turks that are obliged to Trump and that have obviously their own interests vis-a-vis Hamas, vis-a-vis the regional and global movement of the Muslim Brotherhood, of which Hamas is a branch, they have it's a very intricate network of interests. So they have a lot of interest to try and stabilize the situation. But as we saw in the previous interview that you made, Hamas is reluctant to disarm and reluctant to be out of the game.
Well, he said what you said. There is no deal. These are all things up for negotiation. So he didn't sort of deny what you're saying.
That was their position. And it remains their position. We'll see what happens. We'll see what kind of pressures will be brought to bear on them.
What about Benjamin Netanyahu? He's talked about total victory the entire time. And you're saying what we could see is Hamas back in a position where it could come up from the ashes.
We all understand that Netanyahu did not want this agreement. It was imposed on him very brutally by Trump. And it was also the result of a huge protest by millions of Israelis who took to the streets over this entire period and are now content and are very much hoping for this to actually happen. But it was not Netanyahu's wish, and Netanyahu is still interested in doing everything he can not to abide by this agreement, just like Hamas.
So Hamas and Netanyahu are on the same page with this. Both of them want to violate this agreement.
Yes.
Who will put pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu? Do you believe it will still be Donald Trump, that he will have the patience to do that?
We'll see. The division of labor, obviously, between the various third parties is that Trump is supposed to deliver Netanyahu, and the Turks and the Qataris, and to a certain extent the Egyptians, are supposed to deliver Hamas. They were able to do it until a certain point. as we said, phase one. We'll see what happens next week. I believe Trump will remain engaged, but I cannot say with a huge degree of confidence that he will have the necessary patience and the energy and the resources that it would take to continue and push Netanyahu to commit to the next phases of the deal, because Netanyahu's very clear political, personal interest is not to abide by this deal, but rather to go back to war. And this, of course, runs against these personal guarantees that were now reported that Trump gave to the various mediators.
I've got 30 seconds, so the situation is very fluid still.
Yeah, we need to discuss Israeli politics and the choice that the Israeli people will have to make, hopefully shortly. Elections are slated for November 26, but they might be pushed back.
Yeah.
And,
we'll have to leave it there. Eran, Etzion, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us.